Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim wa salatu wa salamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sumayya Hassan and welcome to Aspire. In today's session, I would like us to talk about recognition and appreciation. What is contained in these two words? What is the value of them, and how can we use this more in our day-to-day lives to achieve better outcomes? If we look at the workplace environment, studies have shown that whereas 89%, almost 90% of employers believe that employees leave because of better pay. Many times when employees leave an organization, the immediate thing that people tend to think, oh, they've left for greener pastures, they wanted higher pay. So the interesting thing is that a lot of studies have shown that that is not true. Whereas a big chunk of employers may have thought so, the reality seems to be that only about 10% or 12% of employees leave because of better pay, which is a really interesting statistic. So why do the others leave? It appears when you look at the results, the statistics, a lot of employees leave because of the employee experience. You've had the saying that employees don't leave their jobs, they leave their supervisors. Employees leave their bosses. Why? Because of the employee experience that they have gone through. The employee's experience is about how an employee feels, how they have internalized their experience in a particular institution. And therefore, when you have a very poor employee experience, you can see that in the turnover, you can see that in the very poor engagement that is there within the working environment. Now, that is not to be confused with the generations that we are seeing now coming through the workplace, our millennials and Generation Ys and Zs. Their attitude to life generally is that their door is always revolving. So even in the workplace, it may not be anything about disengagement or poor employee experience. They just don't believe they should stay at anything for too long. They are always on to the next thing. I'm not talking about that. I am talking about the average employee who ordinarily may have stayed a little bit longer, but because of the poor employee experience, they decide to leave. So sometimes when employers are looking at how to address employee experience, they think, okay, why don't we increase the salary? Why don't we give them better perks? This may work, but it may not necessarily bring about long-lasting culture change that you want. It may give instant benefit and instant satisfaction, but is it long-lasting? You're also looking at sustainability. Will it create long-lasting effects that actually will lead to the type of culture that you want? And so therefore, when we look at what are some of the things that an employer can do. And I'm using an employer here purely by way of an example. You can do this in your home, in your religious institutions, in within the community, anywhere else that you are dealing with other people. These two things will be very handy. The first thing is recognition. The second thing is appreciation. This can greatly improve the employee experience at work and indeed any of your interactions anywhere else. So sometimes, and many times, these two words are used interchangeably. Recognition and appreciation. Are they the same thing? No, they are not. Recognition looks at what somebody did. So it is therefore based on past performance. When somebody is recognizing you, essentially what they're doing is giving you positive feedback based on the results or the performance from an action that you have undertaken. You were given a certain task to do, or you were involved in a certain project and you did a very good job at it, and you are recognized for your role in delivering XYZ results in that particular project. That is recognition. And recognition can happen in very many different ways. It could be a bonus. You could be given a financial bonus, for instance. You could be given a promotion. You could be given a pay raise. These are formal ways to recognize you. You could be given a plaque, an award, or it could be even informal routes. Your boss could publicly, in a staff forum or in a public gathering, give a speech to recognize, yes, your performance. Or you could be sent a note, a handwritten note saying you did an excellent job in delivering XYZ. All these are ways to recognize performance, yes? But for them to really be meaningful, they need to be timely. They need to be genuine. If somebody recognizes a performance 1 year down the road, 2 years down the road, you may even have forgotten what it is. Life has happened in between. And maybe in between then and now, you've had certain things that haven't really worked very well, and that is bringing you down. And yet, when you did a great job, you are not recognized then. So for those of us, let us remember, when we are recognizing, do it in a timely manner, as soon as possible after the performance or the results have been achieved. Then it is much more meaningful and much more impactful. It is also important to understand the difference. We've talked about recognition, and we've said recognition is about what somebody did. Appreciation, on the other hand, is about who somebody is. Somebody appreciates you for inherent characteristics that you have. Why is appreciation important? Because the more fuel that there is in the fire, the brighter it will burn. When somebody appreciates you, we are told, "Wala in shakartum la azidannakum." When you feel appreciated, you want to do more. That is our nature as human beings. And this is about appreciating your inherent characteristics. The difference with recognition is it's not looking at the results. It's looking at your input and your effort. So you could be a completely new employee in a place. You could even be a trainee. You've just joined, you were assigned to a certain project. You don't have the experience or the skills, but you are very diligent. You are very committed, you are passionate, you are hardworking, giving the best input you could, really trying to assist. And that is what you will be appreciated for your diligence, for your commitment, for your enthusiasm, for your passion. It may have not been that it is your input that delivered the results. Remember, that is recognition. However, we appreciate the effort that you put. Now, this is where effort is recognized. This is where effort is appreciated. So you don't say, "Oh, but you told us that it's not about the number of hours that we put." No. The number of hours, we are looking at recognition. You may have been sleeping in the office, but you're not delivering as a result. That will affect recognition. However, we will still appreciate the number of hours you're putting into it. So let's be clear. What we are recognizing is a result. What we are appreciating is your input, your inherent characteristics. So what are the different ways, therefore, we can appreciate? We've talked about how to recognize. One of the ways that you can show somebody you appreciate them is to listen. If you go into somebody's office, you've gone into your supervisor's office, for instance, it could be in the home environment, you're talking to your spouse or your parent, and they give you their time, they listen. How much do you feel appreciated? "Excuse me, please, I'd like to talk to you." Somebody puts their phone down, they were working on their computer, they shut it down, put away, they had a pen in their hand. If you walk into somebody's office, "I would like to talk to you," and they're talking to you like this, with the pen up, like, "I'm busy, I have things to do, talk faster." Do you really feel appreciated? Do you feel like somebody's listening to you? No. But somebody says, "Yes, please go ahead." They sit back, give you their hearing, put the pen down, put the phone down. Just that listening. How much do you feel appreciated? They may not agree with what you've said, Appreciation is not that I must agree with everything you've said, but the fact that I have genuinely listened to you makes you feel appreciated. So listening is very important. The other thing is also telling somebody what you value about them. This is one way of expressing appreciation. And don't do it just because you want something from them. Don't do it just because you want them to go and deliver XYZ or perform a certain task. Do it because you appreciate them. And you're telling them, I really appreciate how you organize, the office filing system. It makes it so much easier for all the rest of us to do our work. I really appreciate your effort, your skill in that, your commitment. And that's not because you necessarily want them to do anything. Of course, you want them to continue doing that, but you're not appreciating them just because there is an imminent task ahead of you. No, you're appreciating them because of that value that they are bringing, and you want them to know that they are adding value and you appreciate them. And this is something that is incredibly powerful. When somebody calls you out and just says thank you for doing this, that, the other, for being such a wonderful team player, you are such a bright spot in this office, and I really appreciate that. How good do you feel? I may not have a specific result I can show, but that you appreciate, that I'm cheerful and bright and, generally just spreading the sunshine all around. How good does that make me feel? So telling people what we value about them. At the same time, checking in with your people. When is the last time you asked your employee, how are you today? How is your family? How have you been? How are you keeping? Is the only conversation you're having with your staff about targets and performance? Yes? It says here that your targets for this month was, 50 million. You have only delivered 10 million. Why? Every conversation is just hard numbers and facts and statistics. Okay, this is what you hired them to do, fine. However, what about the person behind those numbers? Do you ever take time to look at the person behind the numbers? I'm not saying don't look at the numbers, no. You must look at the numbers because that way you keep your engagement very objective. But I am saying go behind the numbers and look at the person that you want to deliver these numbers. How are they? Maybe one of the reasons that the performance is falling so much is not only because of the pandemic, maybe they have a sick child at home. And that could really be draining their energy because they are up half the night taking care of a sick person and then they're trying to be at work the next day to really deliver. Have you considered that? And perhaps sometimes you may not necessarily have the solution, but just the fact that you cared enough to ask really makes somebody feel very appreciated. So bear in mind, unless you're working with robots in your office. If you are, the robots probably don't care whether or not you ask them how they are, though right now they are trying to humanize them. But if you're working with people, people have feelings. So do ask. How are you today? How have you been? How is everything? And just that, even if the only answer you'll get is, I'm fine, the fact that you asked really touches somebody and makes them feel appreciated. I want to emphasize one thing as well. We don't advocate a one-size-fits-all solution. What do I mean? Not everybody appreciates public recognition. So it is important for you to also understand your different employees. There are some people, if you stood up publicly and said, I want to recognize the wonderful work done by so-and-so, they would just wish that ground would open up and swallow them because they are such introverts. They are so shy. They just want to do their work quietly. And if you were to recognize and appreciate, please do it quietly. The minute you put them out on the public space, they feel so embarrassed that it is completely counterproductive to what you're trying to do. So it is important that you should understand the differences in your employees and see how best to recognize and appreciate them. Remember, as a leader, recognition, appreciation, all these are tools in your toolbox. You must therefore know the right way and the right time to use them. And you must also see which tool will be most effective with which employee and at which time. That way, you will deliver the motivation that you're looking for, you will deliver the engagement that you're looking for, and at the end, you will have the win-win outcomes, both for the organization and for the employee that you're seeking to recognize and to appreciate. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. I look forward to receiving your comments, your questions, your feedback. Our social media handles are streaming at the bottom of your screen. Please do get in touch with us. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.